So now that we talked about polar patterns, right? So you could have dynamic or condenser. And so you could have an omnidirectional dynamic or an omnidirection cardioid. You could have any pattern or combination of the different microphones or polar patterns. Does that make sense? On top of that, we have frequency response. What this means. Okay. So this is another picture that you would typically see when you're buying your microphone. On the far left, you have 20. On the far right, you have 20,000. That's the range of sound that most humans can hear. And you can see this is pretty flat, right? This means like it records it pretty much the same across the board. Whereas some vocal microphones might start boosting the high end a little bit. You see like where it says right around 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000. It gives it a little boost to kind of sound a little brighter, to sound a little more like the vocals sound brighter and more dynamic. This one, as you can see, it tapers off on the bass end, and then it really highlights the top end. So this is definitely a good vocal microphone because those low hums and those low booming sounds that you might hear get cut off, if you can see how that line goes down. And then this one, you can have different settings. And so one line is pretty flat, the next one it tapers off, the next one really sharply drops off. So that's just an example of what the different frequency responses are for different microphones. All right, so sensitivity is 1 Pascal of sound pressure, 94 dB is heard by our microphone. It's crazy complicated, but basically what it means, the higher the number, the higher the sensitivity, right? That's basically what it means. All right, so higher sensitivity is not always better. If you're working in an environment with a lot of noise, like maybe working with a patient or client, there's a lot of room noise, you might not want a high microphone. You want something a little smaller in sensitivity. So here are 3 numbers. Which is the most sensitive? What do you think? 60, right? No, these are negative numbers. So 37 is actually higher. It's a very common mistake, right? So negative 37 is higher than negative 60. So higher the number, higher the sensitivity. And that's what it would look like on your microphone. All right, so there's pros and cons to everything, right? Dynamic or condenser. What kind of frequency response? If you're trying to record a whole room, then you want it omnidirectional. If you're trying to record a specific person or instrument, you would want something more of a unidirectional or omnidirectional. Just depends on what you're looking for. And the sensitivity. The higher the number, the higher voltage. So if you're recording a vocal in a vocal booth in a highly controlled environment, you might want a condenser microphone with a cardioid sound with a high sensitivity. And you would get the full range of the voice. You'd hear all the different frequency responses. If you're working with a patient in a room, you probably want to use a dynamic unidirectional microphone. And if you're working, like say you're trying to record a choir or an orchestra, you would probably maybe want an omnidirectional microphone. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, there's other things you'll see on there: impedance, polarity, and connection, right? So we're going to focus mostly on the connection because as music therapists, I think this makes the biggest difference. So there's different cables. There's balanced and unbalanced cables. You have the 1/4 inch and or 1/8 inch RCA. Basically, it's just one single wire going through like a copper cable, and then everything else is just protecting that cable. That's all it is one straight shot. The balanced is you have the TRS, which is usually a higher end cable, or the XLR. And this is, most musicians will see this mic cable, right? They usually say, "Can you hand me that mic cable?" This is called XLR. And what it is balanced. And so they're offset. You have one signal going up, another signal going down. And what that does is it's a cleaner signal and can travel a lot farther. You'll never see an unbalanced cable run across the stage because it'll pick up all kinds of sound, all kinds of noise. But if you need to run a long distance, you definitely want to use an XLR. All right, so let's look at a flow chart. Coming in from your sound source, from your microphone, it could plug in either to a mixer or a USB. And so if you want live sound, you probably do some kind of amplification and then that would be your live sound. So then, or you could hang a right and then go into a USB interface, and that USB interface plugs into your computer via USB. And so that USB interface is changing that physical audio sound into ones and zeros that the computer can understand. And then you could have your sound come out of your computer. So another way that you can get sound into your computer is with a USB microphone, a microphone that plugs directly in to your computer. So what if you want to record guitar? You would need to mic it, right? So you either mic the acoustic guitar or mic the amp, and then that would plug in either to your mixer for live sound or into your USB interface into your computer. There's another option. If you're trying to record guitar, you can use what's called a USB interface guitar adapter, and this would plug straight into your computer, straight from your guitar. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So another thing you could do is, say you're recording a whole band, you can have your mixer, your whole mix, go in to your computer. So then you're recording the whole band. And that's what's happening at studios, right? They're recording the whole band go into their computer. All right, so let me quickly talk about USB microphones. They're fast, they're easy, they're convenient. No extra cables, power, etc. You just plug it into your computer and you're ready to go. You can record acoustic guitars, voice, you can record anything you want. But typically you can only record one track at a time. So if you're working with a patient, you can only record one track at a time. And so if that patient can keep time or keep pitch, it's awesome. But it also becomes a challenge. Some have USB and XLR, meaning that it can be used as a dual purpose. I like it. It's called the Blue Yeti Pro. It could plug directly into your computer, or you can use it as a USB, even as a stereo microphone.